everyone, today I wanted to share with you how I stay organised, and I've changed the way that I do this recently, so I thought it would be helpful to share how I used to do things and how I do things now, because if it works for me, hopefully it will work for some of you. It's nothing groundbreaking, it's all very simple, but I thought it would be helpful to share. If you're new to this channel, for context, I'm an independent author, so my work is around writing and publishing my own books. I also have various things associated to that, like marketing and author events, going and selling at various things, going into schools as an author, so everything to do with being an independent author. And if you take a look at my channel, you'll see lots and lots of videos about all the different things associated to that. I also work usually 2 days a week as a teacher, so I do supply and cover. It does vary a little bit, but it's typically 2 days a week. Now, what's tricky about that is I don't necessarily know what days I'm going to be doing that. So I know what days I'm available and what I've told the various people that I work with, you know, what my availability is, but sometimes I don't get booked until the day before. So I might have something in advance that I know, but quite often I don't really know how my week is going to pan out. I just know the days that I could get asked. On top of that, I also am a breastfeeding counsellor, and I'm chair of a local breastfeeding group. So I spend half a day volunteering and doing the admin type stuff that's associated with that role. So half a day volunteering, 2 days doing cover, supply, and then the remaining 2.5 days doing all the writing related stuff. As you can imagine, alongside being a mum of 3 with 2 dogs in a house that we only moved into almost 2 years ago, but that seems like no time at all, there's just a lot of things to organise. So as I say, hopefully the way that I do it, not that it's anything complicated, might be helpful for some of you, or even the way that I used to organise things might be helpful. So what I used to do is I used bullet journals, and somewhere in the vast history of this channel there is a video. If I can find it, I'll link it below. There is a video on how I used to use bullet journals. So this is one of my old ones, and what I would do, so I wasn't interested in it for the aesthetics really, although sometimes I would do myself some nice little habit trackers or what have you, but what I was interested in was the method. There's a habit tracker. So what I would do is I would put the date, then on the particular day, so I would literally write that date on the day, and then I would write down all the tasks, almost a to-do list that I needed to do. And then if I did them, I would put a cross. If I hadn't done them, I'd put an arrow, so that meant I could put it to the next day. And pretty much that's it, using little circles for reminders of where I might need to be on that day. The issue with this particular way of doing it was that I couldn't assign tasks into the future because I was writing each day as it came, if that makes sense. So I couldn't say, oh, in 3 weeks' time I need to remember to do this, because I didn't have a page for 3 weeks' time yet. So I did that probably for about 2 years. Then I started to get planners, just basically because I couldn't be bothered to draw out the weeks. So if you want to do it beautifully, you can. So I just would buy a 2022 diary, for example, and then I would, let's find a good example, use exactly the same method. So again, I would put the little pinpricks. If you look up how to bullet journal, you'll see, if you've not come across it before. Cross through it when it's done, an arrow if I didn't do it, so I can assign it to the next day. But it did mean that I could put where I might be on certain days, or reminders, or don't forget to do X, Y, Z in however long time in advance. So that's how I did it for a really long time. However, I stopped picking up these. This would in the past have gone everywhere with me and always been easily findable around the house, but I wasn't reaching for it. I was forgetting to write things down, and I just wasn't carrying it around with me, to the point where I cannot find my 2024 diary. Don't know where it is. That's how much I've used it. I have no idea. I had a little look around and I can't find it. So that's how I would do things. A lot of this evolved from before I did writing as a career. I would just work off to-do lists. So I would, in my teacher planner, which I'm coming on to, in here, I would have a sheet of rough paper shoved in the front with a to-do list of everything I needed to remember. And when I'd done a lot of the things, I'd write a new to-do list and shove it in here again, because predominantly a lot of my things were teaching related. So right now I do have a teacher planner. This is where all of my teaching related things are organised. So if I need class lists, if I need to plan anything, reminders, to do stuff, all goes in there. To be fair, as a cover teacher, I don't usually need to use this very much, but sometimes I do. It depends on what they're asking me to do as part of my cover. So teaching does remain on paper in my teacher planner. But as I say, I just wasn't getting on with the using a physical notebook. Much as I love notebooks, I wasn't carrying them around, didn't have it with me. So if someone said, don't forget to do this, or asking me about what's happening on, I didn't know, okay? So that was not working. So what then happened that kind of changed everything? It's not revolutionary. When I tell you, you're gonna go, okay, cool story. But sometimes it's just finding the things that work with your brain. And what I discovered was Google Calendar. I know, this is a whole new technique, right? So what happened, there is more to it than just Google Calendar. What happened was my husband uses his Google Calendar, and obviously there are other similar ones, to organise his time. So what he does is his whole to-do list is scheduled in for tomorrow. So if I messaged him right now and said, don't forget to call the builder, that will go in tomorrow as a reminder. And then when he's got to the end of the day tomorrow, if he hasn't called the builder, he'll then reassign that task to the next day. It works for him, it doesn't work for my brain. But that's how he's done things for years. He used to run his own business, so he'd have in there his appointments scheduled with times. He'd have his like, don't forget to do this. So reminders and tasks and everything, but he puts it all in basically as events scheduled to a day. Doesn't work for me as a method. But what happened was he got fed up with, if he needed to know whether one of the kids had forest school or what time is ballet or whatever, well, it was written down in my diary. So he either had to find it and wade through my notes about everything, and that just wasn't very easy for him to find it, so he wouldn't really look at it. So he had to find the diary, he had to understand the diary, and it just meant that I knew all the things, but that wasn't shared. So he asked me if he could use my Google Calendar, since I wasn't using it, as like a family hub, and he set it all up with all the term dates and the when is every club and when's everybody's birthday and all of those sorts of things. And because we were using it that way, I started to use it in other ways. So for instance, if I've got an author visit coming up, I'll have it in there that I'm out at that author visit, or if I've got a selling event or I'm away at a thing, it's all going to be in there, so he knows where I am, I know where he is, we know where the kids are, we know all the things we have to remember that are date specific. So because we were both using it for the kids and we got really good at keeping it updated, if we found something out that, you know, but they've been invited to this party, straight in the calendar. And I think that's why I stopped reaching for my planners, because that works so well for home life, for organising the children and the family stuff. So that works in terms of where is everybody and when, but for me it didn't work for the to-do list, especially because I don't necessarily know what days I'm doing what. So for instance, this week, Wednesday I'm doing an author visit, Friday I'm already booked to do a day's supply, but I could end up booked on Thursday and I don't know just yet. So it's really difficult to plan out my tasks without knowing necessarily. And actually next week, I haven't the faintest idea yet. So it does just make it very, very hard to know on a day specific basis what tasks you are going to do when. So what I discovered was I have an iPhone and I use reminders. So that's the other side of my revolutionary organisation method: Google Calendar and Apple Reminders. So what I've done is within Reminders I have lists. I don't know if this is going to focus. There you go. If you can see it. Oh, my battery is low. There's my lists. I need to charge up my phone. Should put that on my organisational list. So my lists are reminders. That is general family related. I have one reminder. What is it? I need to come up with a list for a party of who's going to the party. Brilliant. That's the only thing I need to do right now, apparently. Work is writing related. So I've got in there to film this video. I've got to prepare for the school visit I'm doing tomorrow. I've got some expenses to pay, a phone call to make. So it all gets put in there. If I think, oh, I must remember to do that, I am always with my phone, so I can just go in there and pop it in there. I've got video ideas, so if one comes into my head, I can get it straight down, so I don't think, what shall I film this week? Also, I sometimes get in the comments videos that people would like, or I get messages sometimes, so I pop that in there. I've got Boob Group, which is the breastfeeding group that I volunteer at. We affectionately call it Boob Group, so anything that I need to do for the group, so various different admin-y bits and bobs, emails I need to send, stuff like that. And then House, which is to do with the renovations. You might have seen my house tour a couple of weeks ago. There's still lots and lots to do in the house, so if I need to remember to buy a piece of furniture or contact a workman or any of that kind of stuff, that all goes in house. What this has meant is that when those things fleet through my mind, I can go, oh, I must put that in the list. And then when it's a work day, for instance, a writing day, I can go into work and there's a list. So I don't need to know what day it is. I can see the list and I can prioritise that list, no problem, in my own head. It's just that I have that ready and I can work through it and just tick off as I've done it. For instance, if I say I don't put school stuff in here because that's in my planner, and I do keep school very separate from home because that works really well for me. But yeah, I can just go into the relevant thing and find a to-do list to work from without having to assign it to a day or remember to move it and write it. Oh, I didn't do it today, so I've got to write it in tomorrow again, or any of those things, and my phone is always with me. I've also got the Google Calendar in here, so I can just go straight onto Calendar and I can see where is everybody. If I'm thinking, what's my husband doing, or did I need to remember to send wellies in with the kids? Or so, for example, today I had a meeting at the school this morning and then I had a Teams meeting at home. So because it's date specific, although it's to do with my writing, the Teams meeting did go on there because it's I'm unavailable, don't phone me, don't contact me, I'm busy, and also so I could remember and I would get a reminder. So that's all of the anything date specific goes there, and to-do list goes in my reminders. And that is it. That's how I do things. And having the different lists means that I can just go into the appropriate one. To be honest, if I was a classroom teacher for a longer period of time, so sometimes I do get a longer contract and I'm doing planning and marking, I probably would add one that was teaching that I could open up when I'm in school. But generally, I'm in a school for a day, so I don't need to remember anything. So yeah, having the list separated, I don't just have one massive list. Having that to-do list as nothing associated to a particular day, so however my week pans out, I can go on to that. And then having the calendar as well, just really, really works for me in spinning the plates, in being able to know where all the family are, what they need, what I have to remember for, as I say, like the house, the volunteer work, the writing stuff, all the different facets. I can just have all that and not hold it in my head, but have it in my phone, and it goes straight in my phone when I think about it, so I don't forget things and I can access it whenever I need it. For me, it's the perfect system. It works so much better than bullet journaling, although that worked for me for years. So if you love bullet journaling, or if you've never heard of it and you want to look it up, I did enjoy it. And I would say particularly if you enjoy the therapeutic side of drawing out your page and having that very visual thing, then it's lovely. But for me, in terms of just organising and something very simple, the way I do it, just to-do lists, but on my phone and a calendar, it's just, that is the stuff. Now, the only thing to add to that, I know I've already talked quite a lot about something that's really a very simple system. The only thing that works differently is if I am working on a book project, particularly as I'm nearing the end, and if I want to actually block the time out. So if I want to say, this phase needs to be finished here, and almost like a Gantt chart type thing, but right, the draft is going to be done here, the illustrations done here, and all of that kind of stuff to visualize the whole plan. To be honest, I've typically used this for the last bit, which is when do the files need to be finished, what marketing tasks are being done, what videos are going out when, who do I need to contact when, all of that. I need it visualized so I can see how many weeks and the countdown to launch. I do that on a piece of paper, I draw it out, and I stick it here behind me so that when I'm sat at my desk I can see in front of me a visual, almost like a wall planner, but with the dates I need on it and everything mapped out, so I can see where I am and I can see how long I've got to get there. I also have these magnets. Can I reach one without destroying my desk? These teeny weeny magnets, they're actually super strong, quite annoying, and would be really quite dangerous if a child or an animal got them, so they are very much out of the way. Little teeny weeny magnets, and so I can use that as well as like a marker and move it along the days so I can see. But for me, that needs to be visual. Everything else up here is just like nice stuff I like to look at, but yeah, so that's the only time it goes on paper, because I need a visual, and that helps me to just see where I am in relation to the end of the project, how much time I have, if everything's going to schedule. Yeah, so that's when I do that, but otherwise now it's all digital, and it really, really works for me. I would love it if you have got a system that works for you. If, like me, you've got a really busy, lots of different strands to your life kind of situation, and you've got a system that really works for you, do drop it in the comments. I think we all work differently, our brains work differently, and that changes. So having lots of tips and tricks, and people might be able to look below and find something, go, oh, I didn't know about that app, or that's an interesting system. We all have these things that work individually. So yeah, do drop them in the comments. If this has been at all helpful, I really hope it has been, then let me know. I think simple is better. I think something that's very portable is better, and something where you can share bits as necessary, such as sharing the calendar with my husband. I actually have a shared calendar with my band as well, so we all put when we're on holiday and when our rehearsals are and when the gigs are. So that shareability is really, really helpful with digital things. For instance, not that I do this, but I might want to have a calendar that I share with the illustrator that I work with, Rhiannon Thomas, to say to her, this is what needs to be done and when. We don't work that way, but we could. So if you need that shareability, I think that digital is really, really helpful. Anyway, as I say, I hope that that is helpful. If you did find it helpful, please hit like. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I put up lots of videos about managing my writing, publishing life. So if you're interested, please do subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.